Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and I'm here with another card and video using new products from the latest Essentials by Ellen release. This time I'm using the new Inner Mermaid stamp set and matching dies. I'm also using the previously released Mermaid's Tail. Of course, these two sets work perfectly together to give you even more ways to make a mermazing card. Many of the cards I've seen use the mermaids above the water, as if they're diving into the ocean, so I decided to have a deep sea scene. The first step for this card is to create my ocean background. Because we're under the sea, I wanted deep colors but with some sparkle. I used the exact same technique as the galaxy sky, so I'll speed through this part. Instead of sky colors, I chose Catherine Pooler inks in watery greens, turquoises, and navy. It's important to dry between layers. As you add colors, your coverage will be different in different areas, and that's what allows this technique to give the colors so much depth and variation. But if you don't dry the layers, they'll just all blend together, which is a great look, but not what we want here. For the ocean floor, I added some brown, making sure to only pick up ink along that one edge. I should mention that the panel I'm making here is not the one in the final card. This card came together after lots of experimentation, and that process is not conducive to recording properly, at least not for me at this point of my video making career. You'll see some differences in the shading in the panels, but that's what makes this technique fun. Every result is unique. Once the panel was dry, I smooshed Versamark along the top edge and added some iridescent embossing powder. I just wanted sparkle along the top, so I wasn't worried about precision or coverage or powder sticking in places I didn't want. So even if the panel wasn't completely dry, this would work and still be pretty. I used sand dunes along the bottom. Both of these Wow embossing powders have a clear base, but they're super sparkly and they make the ocean a little more magical. The next step is to stamp and watercolor the mermaid tails. I lined them up on my Misty and I didn't worry that the one tail was overhanging. I only wanted the very end of it on my card, and I'll be trimming it down later. Everything I stamped on this card was stamped twice because I'm using the bumpy side of the watercolor cardstock, and I wanted to be sure that I got a good impression. The Misty is the perfect tool for double stamping. And check out this Wow embossing powder. It's actually called Mermaid Tails, and it is so perfect for this card. It has a silver base with blue and aqua sparkle in it, and it is absolutely gorgeous and so sparkly. I usually try not to show you too much heating of the cardstock in my videos, but I left this in so that you could get a good look at how sparkly it is. Next, I'm going to watercolor the tails with Catherine Pooler inks in Flirty Fuchsia, Lime Ricky, and Aquatini. These colors stay vibrant in water and they blend together beautifully. I started by filling each area with water and then added some pigment, letting the water help with the blending. I moved back and forth between the tails to let the colors set a bit before adding the next one. I'm not sure there's any science in that, but it seems to work for me. You'll notice I'm not too worried about going outside the lines. After I die cut them, I'm going to add color to them anyway. I set those aside to dry and I moved on to the shells and starfish. I grouped them together in one corner and I stamped them with the Versamark ink. This positioning allows me just to flip the cardstock and stamp them again, so I'll have enough shells to play around with when I'm assembling the card. And I'm using yet another Wow embossing powder. This time it's a sparkly gold color. When I store these little tubs of powder, I emboss and cut out a small dot and I attach it to the lid so that I can see at a glance which color I need from my drawer. For my watercoloring, I followed the same process as I did with the tails, this time adding a bit of yellow to the shells, but still letting them blend with the other colors. Now it's time to start thinking about how this card will be assembled. I laid down the tails and I cut off the excess so that I can see where I want everything to be. Because I used the matching dies, there is a small white border around the edges, so I just chose some Copics that I thought were a fairly close match to the background, and I colored the edges. You want to be careful and not color inside the lines this time, but it's pretty easy and it goes quickly. Because the background varies, you may need to use more than one color of Copic on your edges. You can certainly tell the difference between coloring with Copics on watercolor cardstock and other cardstock. You can feel the paper just sucking the ink out of the marker because it's so absorbent. To create some bubbles and a tiny bit of white space, I used this bubble die from Mermaid Tail, but only after I had all my elements planned so I knew where they would work best. The sentiment is also from Mermaid's Tail and is the result of some stamp surgery. I just wanted the second half of it, Let's Be Mermaids. And I prefer cutting the stamp to the fuss of masking, especially when I'm embossing, because the mask can sometimes leave sticky areas on my card and catch embossing powder where I don't want it. You'll see that this is the only time I've used an anti-static pouch on the card. I find white embossing tricky and I really wanted it to be crisp. And this time it worked beautifully. And here's the card. The depth of color and the sparkle from all the different embossing powders creates a lot of drama and a magical feeling. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.